What's up, guys? The Suicide Fox here, bringing you another video. This is going to be my feedback on Gears of War 4 post-launch. Now, I was planning to make this video last week, but then they announced that new maps were coming out and a title update, so I kind of figured I would wait until that came out and, get a chance to play it and see if it fixed anything. And then again today, they changed some stuff, so I figured I just might as well as make the video. So this video is going to be my feedback of Gears of War 4, everything I think about the game. So the first thing I want to say, the game is great. Like 99% of the game is fantastic. And I really like the cover mechanics are just like really smooth and responsive. Once you get used to it, it's definitely better than any other game before it. The graphics are amazing. They look great. All the new maps look amazing. There's a lot of detail in a lot of the characters. I do wish that there was a model viewer, but that's besides the point. They designed the weapons really well. This is with a little asterisk because I'll get into this a bit later. But for the most part, the weapons are designed really well. They're all really fun to use. They all feel really kind of individual and have their own little place in the game, and that's really cool. They also, from the beta, they did fix back A and up A. Now it feels really good in this game. The multiplayer maps, solid Bs across the board. They're all really good. None of them are really A+ maps like the classic maps, but in terms of when a map comes up, I'm never like, oh god, it's this map. But at the same time, I'm also like, oh man, it's this map. But they're real good. I like them. They're fun to play on. And the two new maps that came out, Checkout and Dry Dock, look really great, and they're still fun to play on like they were in the last game. The campaign was excellent. Great setup for the trilogy. I really like the new characters, and I also like seeing older versions of previous characters, and I thought the dialogue was really funny. Horde is really good. I'm actually playing a lot more Horde this time around than I did before, and there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more stuff in Horde, and that's all great. So this is all the really good stuff. 99% of the game is fantastic. Now, the next section, I'm going to be talking about the core versus competitive. Now, this is mostly referring to the weapon tuning. I will be talking about the matchmaking in a bit. In terms of the core versus competitive weapon tuning, when they announced this before the game came out, I said it was a bad idea, and after playing it, it's still a bad idea. There should not be two different weapon balances in the game. There should be one weapon balance, and that weapon balance should be the competitive weapon balance, because the Gnasher and the Lancer are just better in this playlist. It works for the game. I know people are like, oh, well, the Gnasher sponges in competitive, or the Lancer is too weak in competitive. It's kind of a give and take. When you have weaker weapons, you can have more movement, and when you have more movement, then you don't need a Gnasher that's so crazy powerful that it can down you from 2 shots, at like mid-range. And the Gnasher in core is just ridiculous with that. Not only that, but the range up close, it's got a really wide spread up close, so it's kind of like you can't avoid it sometimes. If someone runs up on you with a Gnasher, there's no strafing them or avoiding them. You're pretty much just getting a 2-shot, 3-shot, unless you can manage to switch to your own Gnasher and get off a lucky shot. But I do feel the Gnasher in competitive is how it should be. The way I kind of equate it is competitive is Gears 1, core is Gears 3, and Gears 1, Gears UE Ultimate Edition weapon balance is just flat out better. It's better when the weapons are weaker and you have more movement. And the Lancer is not really that weak. If you use an active and aim for the head and you have good positioning, you can put people down real quick with the Lancer. So I think that they really need to just shift everything over to competitive, and everything should just be the competitive weapon balancing. It's just better. Now, going into some details about some of the weapons, I was going to say that the Hammer Burst was way too strong in core and that they should fix it, and they have. The title update has significantly improved the Hammer Burst. It's still a powerful weapon if you use correctly, but it is not how it was before. It actually takes a bit of skill now because you have to aim for the head, so that's good that they fixed that. They also need to fix the frag trigger time. It seems like it's too quick, and it just needs to be fixed. Sometimes you throw a grenade and it will blow up almost right away. Other times you'll throw a grenade and it won't blow up, for an extra second. So they need to make the time more consistent. Now, the boom shot is pretty good in this game. I like that they made it 2 shots. That's the smart thing to do. I do think they need to reduce the kill range slightly, because I feel like it's very easy to kill yourself up close with it. Like, a lot of times someone runs up on me and I'll pull the trigger and I end up killing both of us, even though they were pretty far away from me. I feel they need to adjust that. The drop shot is an awesome weapon, but I feel sometimes it's inconsistent with the detonation time. I think that's something that should be looked at. And as I'm going to discuss a bit later, the core and competitive lobby communities should only differ in rules, not in the mechanics, because when you split up the community into people that play this way and people that play that way, it ruins everything. If you look at any esport game. I've been involved in esports for a long time. I used to run tournaments and all that kind of stuff. And when you look at any of the successful esport games, what makes them so successful is that the people who are playing the game at the bottom level are playing the same game as the people who are playing at the top level. There might be a minor rule changes just for the sake of, putting it into a competition, but there's no major changes between like what they're playing and what you're playing. If you want a really good example of where this kind of thing can really go bad, just look at the Halo community. So when Halo Reach came out, Reach had a lot of problems mechanically with the way things were set up, and by the end of it, the people that were playing competitive, they had different speed, different jump height, different shields, different shield recharge time, different damage and melee modifiers, melee bleed through, no bloom, that sort of thing, and it ruined the Halo community. You can't have these two separate ways of playing the game. Everyone has to be playing the same game, and then you build from there. And I think with Halo 5, they did that. They did a really good job of balancing the entire sandbox across the board so that new players or veteran players can use the weapons. Everything's kind of easy to pick up and understand, but at the same time, to master every weapon outside of like the assault rifle does take a bit of time, and it is very rewarding for like the top tier players. So I think that it's better to just go the route that's best for the game, and that route is putting competitive settings on everything and maybe doing a better job of teaching the newer players how to actually play rather than giving them weapons that are just crazy powerful, because all that's going to end up doing is killing the competitive scene because no one's going to care because it's two different weapon balances, and that's just stupid. And that's my opinion on that. The next major issue that I have with the game is the audio in the game. There's a lot of problems with audio. The main issue with the audio is the footsteps of your teammates are too loud and they're too quiet for the enemies. I pretty much learned to keep my head on a swivel in this game because it's almost impossible to hear someone running up behind you. And I have a $150 Astro, 5.1 surround sound headset. I should hear you coming up behind me. It shouldn't be a problem, and it was never a problem in any other game. In any other Gears, I would be able to hear you coming up, and it's kind of unusual that this wasn't fixed from the beta. Not only that, it was an issue in Ultimate Edition beta that was fixed for the actual game, so this is something that they need to work out. I think the audio itself is great. All the guns sound great, especially from a distance. Nasher has that pop to it, and the sniper has that nice crack sound from a distance, but the direction and the loudness of certain things is just not right. Sometimes I'll hear smokes get thrown that sound like they're right next to you, but they're actually across the map, so they need to fix the audio issues in the game. Also, torque bow and the M-bar I think are too quiet when they charge. Torque bow was something I mentioned in the beta. Mechanically, it feels a lot better than the beta, but that sound, it still needs to be a lot louder so that when someone's charging it, you can hear them charging it, because that's a big deal. I've still been able to just walk up behind people and stick them because they didn't know it was charging. And the Umbar 2 is kind of in that category of being too quiet, especially because if you have pretty much any damage on you, a body shot will incinerate you. Knowing that it's at least in the process of being fired is a big deal. Now there's also some environmental noises that I think are just too loud. Stuff like flag waving or, engines pumping on Foundation or the ocean on Gridlock. A lot of that is kind of too loud, especially when a lot of it sounds like footsteps. On the one hand, I kind of like that because it kind of makes you go, what was that? And you're kind of on edge the whole time, but at the same time it shouldn't be so overwhelming that that's all you hear, so they need to tone that down a bit. For objectives, a lot of the audio cues I think are too low, namely for King of the Hill and Escalation. The ring countdown is just real quiet compared to other games. In other games it was like this loud, almost like an alarm going off, and you could tell when someone was about to win, and it was kind of heart pumping. But now it's like it's like this low thud, and you don't even know that it's happening sometimes. And I've lost a couple games because I didn't even realize the other team was capping. Now the robots and the zombies are both just way too loud and obnoxious. They need to turn down some of the sounds they make. The zombies say brains way too much for pretty much everything, and it gets really annoying. And then last little audio issue I have with the game is that the shot grenades should have their own sound. Right now they sound like smokes. Pretty much every time I hear one go off, it makes that like high pitch beep 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 before it goes off, which is the same noise the smoke makes. And I think that it should get its own sound effect so that you know that it's a shot grenade as opposed to a smoke grenade. moving on to the matchmaking issues. As I said before, everything should have a single weapon balance, so all these are based on the idea that we have moved to a single weapon balance solution, and I think that this would be a better option to what we have now. So just to start it off, co-op and quick play are both going to stay the same. There's no changes to these two playlists. I think they should stay as they are. Core, again, will stay as it is, but execution will be added in. And that will basically be execution as we have it now. The only difference is that you'll be able to start with, the hammer burst, the SMG, and all that kind of stuff. Now, the last playlist, the competitive playlist, should only have rule changes from core. So here are the main rule changes that are going to be from core. So first, friendly fire is going to be on. Why is friendly fire on? Well, friendly fire is on because in competition, they have friendly fire on, and it makes you aware of your teammate's position. You can't just spam a boom shot or a grenade somewhere. You have to know that where you're going to throw that is going to kill an enemy and not your teammate. Now, there should be a boot betrayer option so people can't abuse this, and I pick up the sniper and you kill me and take the sniper, I should be able to boot you from the game. If it becomes a real problem, then this could be the one option they remove from the competitive playlist. The weapon respawns should be after pickup, whereas in core they would be after use. Now the difference is after use is I pick up the boom shot and the next boom shot won't spawn until 30 seconds after I use the boom shot up or the boom shot has despawned. And what happens there is that people will pick up a weapon and then they can hold weapon for the entire game. I've done that myself. I've picked up every weapon on Gridlock. I've had snipe, boom, and frags, and just sat back with a bolt hawk, never used any of them until the end of the game, and it's kind of unfair. Especially if you really know how to play the game, you can abuse that. So having weapons after pickup is good because, one, that's, again, how they would have it in competitive. And two, it makes it so you can't just hoard weapons. You're actually encouraged to use the weapons. And in Gears Ultimate Edition, everything was after pickup. It was great because it meant that if you pick up a weapon, you were more like, okay, I should probably use this weapon now, just because I have it, rather than save it for like a later point. And there were instances like on canals where sometimes like the whole team would have snipers, but usually that only happened if you were really getting stomped. So I think that weapons should be after pickup. The next rule might be a big one for a lot of people, but for everything in this playlist, execution rules will be on. And again, that's because in competition, you have escalation has execution rules, and in the past we've had execution, which is obviously execution rules. And I think that most of the competitive stuff just plays better with execution rules because it encourages you to engage the enemy in more skillful fights in close range and tactics and all that kind of stuff. Now, this is probably the biggest difference between competitive and core, is that there's going to be Lancer and Gnasher only starts in competitive. In core, you can start with a hammer burst, you can start with an SMG, maybe even throw in another weapon if a new weapon gets added in later that could be a pistol or something like that. Throw that in there too. Sure, why not? But in competitive, you start with Lancer, Gnasher, Smoke Sub, and that's it. The reason for that is just it's more balanced. Everyone starts with the same thing. It's more competitive. That's how the competitive players do it, again. So that's how it should be. But I do think that in the competitive playlist, on some maps, there should be a hammer burst or an SMG put somewhere on the maps. It doesn't have to be everywhere. The only map that I can even think of that it should definitely be on is the hammer burst towers should have a hammer burst and not a bolt hawk on Gridlock. But other than that, they could be sparingly switched in and out with a couple weapons as needed. Now, the modes that are going to be in this playlist that I feel should definitely be in there. There might be other ones that people feel that should be in there. Obviously, execution, obviously escalation, because those are the competitive modes. I feel King of the Hill should be in there because, personally speaking, King of the Hill with weapon respawns after pickup and execution rules and Lancer Gnasher starts only it's just the bee's knees. You can't get any better because in King of the Hill, you need to be able to move. So having competitive style King of the Hill makes it a lot easier for you to move around and get positions and break the hill and all that kind of stuff. You can't have unbreakable setups like you can in the current core. Now, the last mode that I think should be in this should be Guardian, just without the execution rules, only because that's what kind of makes the leader different from everyone else's, his execution rule. But having the weapons after pickup and friendly fire and Lancer Gnasher starts, I think for this mode would be really good, especially because it's one of the more classically popular modes among the community. Might also be something for TDM players, maybe for dodgeball. I don't know, I'm not sure, but it'd definitely be Execution, Escalation, King of the Hill, and also Guardian, just to round it out to a nice 4. A couple of things that I think should change for the general matchmaking of Corrin competitive. So in these lobbies, it needs to go automatically and search for the next game at the end of the match. Gotta press B and wait for your whole team, and then the leader's gotta pick a thing and go and do it again. That's just aggravating, honestly. Like, there's no other way to say it. It's just annoying to do that. So it should automatically roll over to the next match. Not a rolling lobby like we have in the social quick play where it keeps the same people together. It should back you out to the lobby and find a new group of players to match you against. That's how the matchmaking is, supposed to work. Just make that whole process automatic, and without needing the player to press anything to go to the next game, it just does it on its own. I also think there should be a veto map option added to the pregame lobby for core, competitive, and for Horde. Just because, on Horde especially, because I've played games of Horde in public on Fallout, I must have played like 8 times in a row one day, and it was just aggravating to play the same map over and over and over again. So it'd be nice if we could just veto that in the game lobby and just it pick something else, because that would be infinitely better than playing the same thing over and over and over again. My last little tidbit about the matchmaking is for Horde, and I think that there should be a Horde quick play option added to the Horde playlist. What would happen if you click Horde quick play? Well, what it would do is it would find a normal or hardcore game in progress, and it would drop you into that game. Problem right now with every playlist, but with Horde especially, is quitting and people not being able to do, X amount of waves. That's because of the way that the rewards are set up with 1 to 20 waves and all that kind of stuff. Having this would make it so that people can just kind of drop into your game real quick, fill in those empty spots, rather than you just be stuck without a teammate. It would drop you into a normal or a hardcore game. It wouldn't let you choose, because that defeats the purpose of quick play. And why not casual? Well, in my opinion, if you're playing casual, you're not really playing the game. That's like easy mode, if you just want to have fun or socialize or any of that, and no one's really going to want to stick around for that. In Insane, it's kind of the opposite end of the spectrum. That's like the one where you really want to have a team and work together and do all that stuff. And I think normal and hardcore are the two that really need it. Now, as a reward for opting into this playlist and spawning into a game that may be almost over, or maybe only has one other person that just leaves right when you do, or something like that, if you choose quick play, when you spawn into the game, you're going to have 2,500 power instead of 1,000 as kind of like your reward. This next issue is kind of having to do with the matchmaking. I kind of mentioned it earlier, but I wanted to talk about it specifically, is the issue of quitting. Now, quitting has been an issue since Ranked in Gears 1. I remember that was pretty much what turned me off of doing Ranked in Gears 1, was people quitting. I'd go into a game, you'd sit there for 10 minutes, wait for everyone to join, the game would start, and then after the first round, my whole team would leave. Or the host would leave because he got crushed, and the whole game would end. And that was just totally I didn't even want to play that game until I found public matches, which allowed quitting and people to join in progress, and it was just better. So this has been something that's been going on since the first game. Now, I don't think they need to add a time ban. They've been saying that they're going to possibly adding a time ban, which is something that Halo does, where if you quit too much in a certain time period, you get banned for 15 minutes, an hour, however long the formula calculates you should be banned for. And I think that's a bad idea, because it encourages people to not play your game. Like, if I quit or my connection drops and your game's telling me I can't play, I'm just going to go play something else. Maybe not me, because I love Gears, I'm always going to come back. But those people that probably wouldn't come back, they're just going to go and play something else and not come back. So I think, and I really hope the coalition is listening, I think a better option is to publicly shame people that quit. How do we do this? Well, we kind of already have something in place in the game. We have the holiday heads in the game, which we saw with the pumpkin heads for Halloween. So what we can do maybe is add a dunce cap that says rage quitter, and if you rage quit too much, like a holiday head, you get this rage quitter dunce cap put on your head, and everyone knows that you are a rage quitter, and people will make fun of you. It'll make you feel bad for rage quitting. On top of that, I think that if you're wearing the rage hat, you should get like a minus 25% XP penalty for every game that you play. And in order to get rid of the hat, you have to play X amount of games without quitting. And I think that would be a really good option. Other games have used something similar, or something along the lines of GTA 5 has the bad sport playlist where if you quit too much you get put only with other quitters. I think doing stuff like that, publicly shaming people or punishing people in that way, is better than just telling them don't play. So I really hope that gets addressed. Regarding Horde, quitting is a bit more difficult to address. I already mentioned the Horde quick play idea before, but I think that another idea that would benefit Horde would be to add a sort of like stacking bonus of XP and or credits for every 10 waves that you complete. So if you complete 10 waves, you get 1,000 XP and 10 credits. Complete 20 waves, you get 2,000 bonus XP and 20 bonus credits, and so on and so forth. So the more groups of 10 waves that you play, the more stuff that you get back on it, the bigger your return on investment. And I think this would encourage people to stay for longer sessions because they want to go for the better rewards. And I think that would be really helpful for Horde to have some way of encouraging people to just stick around, because that's the main issue, really. Moving on to my next point, this is the stuff I want to see changed with the card system and the microtransactions. I don't really have a problem with the dollar price, because I wasn't planning to spend any money on the cards, but I do think that the scrap system needs to be adjusted to make it feel less pay to win and grindy. I feel that commons and rares should give more scrap when destroyed, and there should be a lower cost to create epics and legendaries, kind of bring the bottom end and the top end of it inward a bit to get that sweet spot. For the most part, I do like the card system only because it kind of reminds me of collecting like baseball cards or Pokemon cards or anything of that sort. You know, you open a card pack, you might get a duplicate of a card that you already have, and I think that's okay. I just think that there should be something of value to those cards that I destroy or make it easier for me to create what I want. Going back to the duplicate card thing, I think that if you get a duplicate card for, say, a Marcus Phoenix skin or whatever the character is, you get that duplicate card, it should automatically convert it to scrap and then give you a bonus scrap like 50% on top of it. And this should also apply to any of the level 5 horde skills that you have, because after level 5 there's no point in having the cards. So these cards that you get that are duplicates should give you kind of a bonus scrap payout immediately upon opening the pack. It should just kind of like UI element stamps over top of it like you just got this much scrap, and I think that would be really good. Today they did announce that they are adjusting some of the credits and XP payouts and some of the bounties and stuff, which I think is really good. I'm not sure what that's going to entail. By the time this video goes live, it'll probably be live, so we'll probably have a better idea what it is. But in my opinion, I think that Elite Pack should be like 3,000 instead of 3,500. That's a more reasonable price. We need more bounties for credits, especially in Versus, because credits, for me, credits are more valuable than XP. I literally scrap all my XP cards because I expect to play this game to get to the highest rank, and I do not really feel like I need any of these cards because I'm almost a second re-up and I barely used any of them. So if you actually play this game a lot, you really don't need those. But the credit cards are the cards that I want to try and get more credits all the time because I'm trying to open more packs. So we need more bounties for credits in Horde and for Versus, mostly for Versus. Moving over a bit to the different characters and stuff and the skins and all that, I do like them. However, I think that we need more actual original characters and not just like palette swaps. In my humble opinion, all the Color Blast characters are hideous. They do not belong in this game. They are eyesore. To me, it just seems lazy that you took a character and just changed the textures and the colors on them to make a quote-unquote different character. I think that the way that it was done with Hoffman, we have 4 different Hoffmans. We have the Armored Hoffman, we have the E-Day Hoffman, we have the Hoffman in the suit, and then we have the Commando Hoffman. Those are 4 different, completely different models for Hoffman. You know, they all look different, and that's good. But when we have 4 color variants of Armored JD, you know, we have Armored JD, and then Color Blast Armored JD, and then this Armored JD, it's just, I think is stupid. So we need more original characters and less just like color swap palettes of them. Although the Day of the Dead characters, I will admit, those ones are okay, but those should be like the exception to the rule, not the rule itself. Moving on to the skins, I think that every skin should be available for every weapon. I think it's kind of stupid that Lancer has like 50 skins, something like that, and the Nasher has like 50 skins. That's great. But then like the Retro has 4, and the Hammerburst has 4, and the Boomshot has 3, and the Torque Bow has 3, but then the Sniper has 50. I think all those skins should be available for pretty much every weapon, and they should all be, you know, kind of the same, so that way I could have Orange Trooper on this one, and Orange Trooper on that one, and Orange Trooper on this, because that's what I want, Orange Trooper on everything. I would really like to have all those skins available for every weapon. I'm just gonna move on to the last little bit of stuff, and this is just stuff that didn't really fit anywhere else. It's just stuff that I think is really important to address. First, I want to say now this is probably the most important thing, not only in this section but probably in this entire video. This has become the bane of my existence: is spawn invincibility. I can't tell you how many times I've played dodgeball, arms race, King of the Hill, where I run up to someone who just spawned, not knowing they just spawned, and try to engage them, and they are invincible. And not only are they invincible the first shot, but they're invincible the next shot, and the next shot, and the next shot. There needs to be something that tells the other player that that player is invincible. This has to be something in the game. This has been a problem since respawning modes have been introduced into Gears, is that spawn protection invincibility. And while I understand while it's there, because not having it was also really bad, we need to know that that person is invincible. We need it. We need a white flash or something that tells us this person is invincible. Do not engage. Now, I think that there should be some sort of icon that lets you know that you've been marked. This is really important, especially in Guardian, to know that you've been marked, because in Guardian, your mark lasts for like 10 seconds. And when you're marked in this game, you can be seen through walls, kind of like leader vision in Gears 3. So knowing that you're spotted and that knowing that you're marked is really just kind of a big deal, and I think that's something that really needs to be added in. There also needs to be a better notification that the spawns have swapped in TDM. I've had games where I've spawned and 5 seconds later the enemy spawned right behind me with absolutely no warning and I get shot in the back. So there needs to be something like Gears 3, we had enemy reinforcements. That needs to be there, like needs to be there. I also think that we should add spawn swapping to Guardian with the notification, because in Guardian, right now the spawns do not swap. So you have these situations where the leader stays all the way back in spawn, and it is really, really, really difficult to push in and kill their leader. It's just everyone's fighting in spawn. That's this whole mode. And in previous games, Guardian was always about trying to pin down the leader and kill him. So I think that it should kind of go back to that, because that's how it's always been. My next little issue is something I've been saying since Gears 2. The flinching and the screen shake in this game needs to be either removed or cut down significantly. Now, in Ultimate Edition, they actually removed this, and it was fantastic, because it meant that your aim cannot be messed up. If someone's shooting at you, your aim is steady. You aim where you want to aim. It doesn't matter what's happening around you. You can aim where you want to aim. And I think that that's how the game needs to be, because it's just, one, it would make it more consistent, and two, it's just better when I'm in a fight and having that one stray bullet that would have made my shot go haywire instead doesn't, and I can actually land my shots as I am aiming to land them. Moving on to dodgeball, I think that a cool feature that you guys kind of missed out on for dodgeball is having it so that if you do an execution other than a meat shield, because meat shields are kind of like their own thing, if you do any execution other than a meat shield in dodgeball, it should instantly respawn your teammate. And that would be really cool, because then I could run up and do an execution on someone and instantly respawn my teammate rather than having to wait the 5 seconds or whatever time it is for them to respawn. And that would add a nice little touch to dodgeball, which is already a really awesome mode. Arms race, I do feel that the weapons should change faster, because there are times where I'm fighting someone with whatever weapon and then we get the kills and I'm stuck in a position where I don't want to shoot at the guy to kill them, but I also don't want to not be shooting at the guy to survive. I also think that when players die, they should drop those small ammo boxes that would give you like a single shot or a single clip for each weapon, because especially with the first like couple weapons, you really don't have that much ammo to like get through it sometimes. And you know, if the other team gets ahead and you're sitting there without boom shot, you're kind of at more and more and more of a disadvantage, and you kind of almost have to get killed to get more boom shot to go forward, but then you're more behind. So having the players drop ammo, I think, would be a really big deal. The very last thing I want to talk about was something that I brought up in my beta video. It was also a very popular thread on the forum regarding the delays in the game. I already mentioned that the back A and the up A and all that kind of stuff has been fixed, and that's great. I love it. It does take a little bit of getting used to, because the timing's different. However, there's still this roadie run delay. Even though I've gotten used to the timing of coming out of run and pulling the trigger, I think that if you pull the trigger while holding A button, that trigger pull should start the shooting animation. The delay should still be there, but what it should do is it should cancel your run and start you to shooting. Whereas right now you can be running and press the trigger and nothing happens, you continue to run. So basically make the trigger override the input for the A button. And I think that would adjust a lot of the roadie run delay issues that I've been having and that other people are having, and it would also make it seem a lot more consistent, because I think that one of the big reasons people have a problem with the delay is because they're pressing the trigger before the delay is finished and their input just gets lost, so they don't end up firing their gun the moment they come out of the run. I think this would be something that could definitely fix that. If you guys made it this far, I applaud you. Thank you very much for watching. If you guys liked it, be sure to like it, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.